Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.
What's up, techies and techettes? This is September 25th, 2012 at about 10:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Welcome to the 33rd episode of the Blacks in Technology audio podcast. I am your host, Greg Greenlee, owner and founder of the Blacks in Technology website. Blacks in Technology, bringing unity to the black IT community. We focus on creating an online social community for the black technologists to benefit and thrive in. You can catch us at www.blacksintechnology.net. Also on Twitter, you can follow us at Black in Technology, and that's BLKINTECHNOLOGY. You can also join our LinkedIn group under Blacks in Technology and look for us on Facebook as well. Tonight, our guest is Keith Townsend of virtualizedgeek.com. I want to go ahead and welcome Keith to the show. Keith, thanks a lot for joining us.
Great. Thanks a lot for having me. It's a pleasure.
Great. No problem. Anytime. So, Keith, let's start off. Tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background, how you got started in IT.
So, as you know, I run the tech blog, virtualizedgeek.com, which specializes in virtualization, cloud computing, and pretty much anything that I feel like we're writing about. It's great having your own blog. You can go on tangents as I sometimes do. I'm currently a chief architect at Lockheed Martin for a federal agency, one of their programs there. Actually, I cut my teeth in IT a little bit over 15 years ago. I broke in, as many of us in the infrastructure realm do, on the help desk. Moved my way up through the help desk ranks up to, server administration, from server administration to network and network security. Took a couple of management roles, then got involved in some virtualization and cloud computing, and that kind of led me to where I'm at today.
Nice. I like the progression there. It's kind of the same progression I took starting off as help desk and moving into network administration, and now I work at a service provider, data center, and we do it everything from cloud computing to some managed services, managed networks, switches, routers, load balancers, firewalls, the whole gamut. Web Linux and Windows web servers. So, yeah, definitely. Everybody definitely check out the site, virtualizedgeek.com. I've been on it ever since I found out about Keith, and a great resource for learning about some virtualization and getting some info on cloud computing. You got a pretty wide spectrum that you talk about, everything from virtualization to cloud computing, PC and server hardware, networking. Which one of those categories would you say that you like the most?
You know what? Every now and again, I'll get the itch for networking and want to do deep dives again. Back in the day, I had a CCNA and on my way to a CCIE. Then I found out that I just didn't have the passion for it. So by far, today my biggest role is probably virtualization. The great thing about having the networking background is that a lot of virtualization relies on understanding the virtualized network. So it's a good background skill set to have. But probably the thing that I enjoy when they let me get a keyboard, I don't get a hold of a keyboard too often anymore in a real environment, but when I do, I like to fiddle around with virtualization.
Gotcha. And what's your hypervisor of choice? Are you're mostly VMware, or does that really matter to you?
So it really doesn't matter to me a lot. It's more of so in my current role and future roles that I'm looking at taking, it's pretty much what the use case dictates. I actually have a blog post coming on one of CBSI's websites, blogs pretty soon, that's talked about 2013 being the year of the hypervisor. And there's a lot of parity right now in that hypervisor space with Microsoft releasing Windows Server 2012 and VMware and KVM. There's a lot of parity, so it's pretty much whatever the use case is for the particular, whatever the hypervisor fits for the particular use case. Gotcha.
Yeah. In our environment, we're kind of moving towards a VMware based platform. We were and we still do have an infrastructure based on Zen Server, and we use CloudStack as our management console for it. And now we're going to be moving more into the VMware vCloud Director side of it. So.
That's a pretty interesting.
Go ahead.
I was just about to say that's a pretty interesting choice for cloud providers and service providers. A lot of service providers I found have used Zen Server, KVM, with some type of open source management stack like CloudStack in the past. And there's an argument for either way. VMware has a really nice ecosystem. And a lot of customers really understand it. It's easy for them to make that translation from what they have internally to if their cloud provider provides a VMware stack. It's easy for them to make that transition. So it's an interesting choice.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the powers that be are looking at it. I would prefer to stick with Zen Server and CloudStack. But they see more of a market in having a VMware stack and targeting those mid to larger enterprises that already have a VMware infrastructure in place, maybe they're looking for some DR solutions, something along those lines, or even moving their infrastructure or moving their VMware into like a privately managed infrastructure that we offer. So I kind of see where they're coming from. I was talking with Cumulogic today. They're a platform as a service vendor, and when I told them we were actually moving away from CloudStack, away from Zen Server, they kind of gave me the business on that. They like CloudStack and Zen Server as well, and they find that among developers, I guess developers like CloudStack. They say it's easier for developers to spin up a build in CloudStack as opposed to VMware, and I don't know why. We didn't get into it. Why it's quicker. But yeah, they were more on CloudStack and Zen Server than they were on VMware. So let's talk SDN because okay. I seen your post. I've been reading a little bit about it. I don't know a ton about it, but I know what it's the basics of what SDN is, and I like how you make the reference in your blog article, SDN abstracting the network hardware in the device OS. So in essence, all you define pretty much is how you want the traffic to flow, and SDN makes it happen. So for all those people out there that don't know what SDN is, go ahead and explain what it is and some of the benefits of it.
So SDN, software-defined networking, has been a term that's been kicked around for the past couple of years. A lot of people might know it as OpenFlow, which is a component that's not maybe necessary for SDN in the long run, but you're exactly right. Software-defined networking is an extremely new term within the network industry, and it's really geared towards, at this point, service providers.
Yep. Real quick, you're breaking up just a little bit.
Okay, let me, you know what, actually, let me make a little adjustment here.
Okay. You actually just got clear.
Any better?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So software-defined networking is a new concept that's been floating around for the past couple of years. A lot of the really cutting-edge, smaller manufacturers, such as Arista Networks, are really gung-ho on the concept for service providers. So it's exactly what you mentioned, the ability to create network flows and traffic patterns that are abstracted from the hardware. So it doesn't matter if you're running a Cisco infrastructure, an Extreme Networks, Arista, that's really irrelevant to the application in the data center manager. The best case scenario would be, SDN Nirvana would be that you would get a 10 gig link from your local LIC, your local telephone provider, and that's pretty much a dumb pipe that SDN controls. So right now there's a lot of knobs as network engineers that we turn to make BGP traffic, border gateway protocol traffic, flow the way internet traffic flow the way that we want to.
Yeah.
The promise of SDN takes away that administrative nightmare for us and allows us to, similar to how we no longer have to, as programmers, we no longer have to make calls to the OS to manage memory ourselves. The OS does it. The same thing would be for applications and in the network. If I need a VPN, if I need a temporary VPN to a business partner, then the network administrator doesn't have to set up that VPN. The application makes a call to it. That connection is brought up, and then at the end of that communication session, it's torn down. So it really helps simplify and not just simplify, but make possible applications that that we really can't conceive today because of the level of complexity that's in the network now.
Gotcha. And I was, from what I was reading, and I don't know if you know the answer to this. This might be more in the architecture of SDN itself. I think it was with OpenFlow. They were talking about how it would work, and they were saying that that you'd have like a controller, and that would be what would abstract the networking part of the whole thing. And when I was looking at it, it kind of seemed like the controller was more of a point of failure. And I don't know if you know whether or not, how they're, how they plan on working around that. Are they going to have, like multiple controllers and being able to do some type of replication or some redundancy within those controllers?
Yeah, so if you take a look at, if you're familiar at all with VMware's distributed switch or any distributed switch in general, it's a very similar. It's a very similar concept where you have several nodes that have a piece of the controller. So no single the mature version of OpenFlow and SDN would be that no single node is the controller. So that controller workload is shared across several nodes, which could be physical switches, virtual switches, x86 virtualized equipment, and so the controller itself becomes a system across several nodes. So that would help eliminate that single point of failure. Gotcha.
Makes sense. That's some pretty cool stuff. What was what's the other SDN based? Is that VX?
So there's a VXLAN that's protocol that Cisco leads. That's so there's all kind of different components of SDN. OpenFlow is the kind of common language that that you use to communicate with the hardware. So VXLAN is kind of a extension of VLAN, of the VLAN type line of thought, where you're encapsulating VLANs acting over other IP traffic. So you can create very flat networks across data centers. So your failure may have an IP. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's basically spanning layer 2 networks across geographical locations, right?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Now go ahead. You can finish. I was just making sure that I was following you.
So for, when you talk about virtualized data centers, and spanning a virtual data center, so now you no longer have this concept of this data center that's isolated to one physical location. Now, in the future, you'll have a virtual data center that spans several geographic locations that if you, as a customer, you may not even know where your virtual data center exists. You know that you have an IP scope. That IP scope is consistent, it's flat, it's owned by you, it's private, and your resources and your nodes live in that IP scope. But the physical nodes might be in 12 different physical data centers across the nation. And that's kind of the promise of VXLAN.
Nice. And that helps with like applications that are more more layer 2 aware than they are layer 3 aware.
Yeah, so if you join the two ideals, so if you have this VXLAN concept, then you have this network abstraction. So you have this as a service provider, you have this 10 gig pipe, and a customer says, you know what, my network is flat, and I have these two applications, a database application, a database server, and an application server that have these latency requirements. The network team no longer has to go up and set that up. The application requested, SDN passes that request over to whatever the SDN controller is. The SDN controller sets up those virtual connections within that 10 gig pipe and delivers a specific quality of service, configures quality of service using OpenFlow, and kind of pulls that whole picture together.
That's pretty slick. It's pretty nice. But
yeah.
Have you seen many companies implementing this, or is this?
No, this is all just theory. Actually, I was really surprised. GigaOM, Arista Networks, was working with a couple of pretty big service providers that were actually using OpenFlow to determine flows. So, really big service providers have multiple 10 gig connections to the internet. But one of the biggest challenges that these guys have is balancing traffic across those 10 gigabit connections. When you get that big, you're pretty much pairing with other network providers.
Exactly.
And you're trying to use BGP to control those flows. There's actually service providers that are starting to allow OpenFlow to make those routing decisions for them, which I thought was incredibly advanced and brave of those guys, because I couldn't imagine being a service provider and allowing OpenFlow or some automated solution other than BGP to control my network flows between other data center providers.
Yeah, that's pretty.
So that's kind of like where it's at now.
Gotcha. We use a device that kind of it's not really along the lines of OpenFlow, but it sort of helps. We use Internet. I don't know if you ever heard of Internet. And it's basically a device that let me make sure I'm phrasing this right. It takes like the top, I think it looks at the top 10,000 prefixes, I want to say, and picks the best route pretty much. And it actually injects routes into your routing table based on those top 10,000 prefixes.
Okay,
so
I haven't heard of that. I've heard of the name, but I didn't know exactly what the product is.
Yeah, so we actually use it, and it has a pretty nice dashboard. It gives you some pretty cool metrics as well. So, but just even because you would think that a service provider probably wouldn't take a chance with OpenFlow as new as it is. I'm pretty sure there's probably still kinks or something like that need to be worked out, and I don't see how, service provider would take that chance. But if they, they kind of know what they're doing, then yeah, definitely more power to them.
Yeah, it's pretty brave.
Yeah. So on your site as well, you were mentioning you were doing some VCP training.
Yeah, so I had so I mentioned earlier that I don't get to tinker much anymore. I pretty much now in my current role I'll go into I just treat architecture. I get to draw stuff, I get to set boundaries, but I don't really get to tinker much. So I had an opportunity at my company to do some VCP training, so some deep dive VMware training to potentially get my VCP. So again, one of those opportunities where, I like to think of myself as a geek and be able to pass the certification tests like I did back in the day. So it was a nice little time to throw back and actually get back deep into the actual technology.
Nice. It's funny. There's an actual discussion going on online right now on Blacks in Technology site, and it centers around STEM and STEM education. And one of our more active members, Henry, was talking about certifications. I think he kind of sees it as vendors kind of wanting to make money. He's not downing certifications, but he kind of feels that that the industry itself is kind of making these certifications kind of watered down. So now you don't have these people out there that are really learning the basics and then going out and doing a hardcore learning themselves to get these certifications, and it's kind of watering them down. It's funny that you mentioned, because I like getting certifications myself. I've got a few myself. I just finished a NetApp certification. I also have like CCNA security, Linux Plus, a few other certifications, and hopefully here soon I might be actually going to get a VCP certification as well. And I like it, but I understand where he's coming from. People like me, people like you, who do the due diligence, the behind the scene work, and pretty much do what it takes, building labs in our home, so we can actually get this knowledge and not just let it be theory. We actually try to apply it, try to learn it. So, yeah. What's your take on that?
Yeah. I think I have a similar take as yours. There's a couple of certifications that I really respect. I really respect Cisco's certification process. They always change it. They always are improving upon it, making sure that there's not back in the day, we had that term paper MCSE. That it's just not a paper mill. So, I was actually pretty shocked a couple of years ago. I renewed my CCNA, and I went in to take the test cold. I'm thinking, what? I've been a CCNA since 2001. This shouldn't really be a big deal. I went and took the test, and I failed it. And I'm like, oh, my goodness, this thing was way tougher than what I thought it was. And then, it took me maybe a month and a half to bone up and go back and take the exam. So it had value in the sense that it made me refresh my skill set and my approach. But then on the flip side of that, it's interesting that you mentioned the VCP. So for the VCP, which is VMware's certification, in order to obtain it, you have to take an official VMware course. So I actually got into discussion on Twitter with a couple of VCPs, VCD. Actually, got one guy. He has his VCDX, which is kind of the TCIE of VMware. And
that's like the design expert, or
That's like the design expert, exactly.
Okay.
And I kind of put it out there. Why in the world does VMware make you take a $4,000 course in order to get an entry-level certification? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
And the bottom line ends up being that we all agree that it's pretty much a money grab from VMware. Yes, it guarantees that someone has a certain level of training, but that really doesn't much add value. If you're going to have a paper VCP, that person's going to be a paper VCP whether or not he paid $5,000 for the class or not. So it's an interesting barrier. So when you talk about STEM, which is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I'm an engineer, and I'm a black engineer, I really preach the benefits of STEM. And when I see artificial barriers like that to the industry, it really, it actually makes me kind of upset to think that there may be people who have the technical ability or aptitude for STEM, and they are prevented from entering what's right now a pretty lucrative part of technology because they're either not sponsored by employers to take a $4,000 or $5,000 course, or they don't have the personal means to take a $4,000 or $5,000 course. So I do have a big level of frustration with the money grab in some of the certifications out there. That was one of Henry's points as well. As he thinks that the STEM process, the way that it's being taught, the way that it's being presented, is broken as a whole. He was saying how he remembers when you got out of school and you had a certain. Well, no. What he was saying was it wasn't a requirement. And this is more in regards to the certification than it is just actual stuff. It was more of a requirement, not a requirement to come to a job and know everything, right? Like know everything off the bat. It was more of you have the basics, you have the basic knowledge. We're going to pair you with a senior level person, and they're going to teach you the rest, right? And nowadays, you have these companies out there, and the only thing they want to do is hire somebody with, who has the utmost skills. And he thinks that's broken. He thinks that makes it, I guess it kind of makes it to where the people who have a willingness to learn, more of a willingness to learn, don't get that chance. Well, you guys had a similar. There was a similar conversation that I take a similar slant or perspective on. It's an adjacent kind of thought process. You guys talked about. There's a thread on dress. How do you dress when you come to work? And it was. I made the comment that those are red flags. Believe it or not, how you dress or how the company dress is a red flag on whether or not you're going to fit in that organization culturally. So, if you're extremely comfortable in a shirt, tie, and dress down for you is a sports coat on Friday with a polo and slacks, then going into an internet culture where it's jeans and t-shirts, that speaks much more than just about the dress code, but the culture of the company and kind of your culture that probably won't meld. So the same thing, Henry has a valid point when it comes to what types of personalities or talent a company will be willing to hire. It has always been my experience that companies that hire based on ability to learn and apply technology are always the ones that I've most enjoyed working for. The companies that look at, do you have X certification, do you have this skill set already, we are not willing to invest in you, are companies that I didn't spend very much time at and I didn't enjoy the experience. So it speaks, that process actually speaks to a lot. So when I'm in a position where I need to hire somebody, my best hire by far was a guy who didn't have the direct experience with the technology that I was looking for, but he had an aptitude for technology, and he could demonstrate his ability to pick up advanced technical topics. And my boss praised me for like 2 years for that hire. And my insight in that, and I'm thinking, wow, there's absolutely something to that.
Nice. So, switching back to more technology than we've been discussing here. What's going on? What's new in cloud computing? Something that we should.
So you mentioned the cloud stack that you guys your control panel that you're using is cloud stack. There's a huge, really battle between the major control panels or cloud management platforms between basically VMware, OpenStack, CloudStack, Eucalyptus. All those cloud management platforms are really fighting for the hearts of the data center provider. So, when I told you earlier in the conversation that in the podcast that it was interesting that you guys chose to go the VMware route, it's very, very interesting, the strategy that cloud providers are taking to win over customers. Because up to this point, it has been the developers that have been driving cloud adoption. When you look at Amazon and their customer base are the developers. You look at the big companies building solutions based on AWS, it's the Zyngas, the Netflix, the internet type of companies. But then when you switch over and you talk about the large pie, the big part of the untapped part of the market, you're looking at, the GEs of the world, the General Motors, all the traditional companies. Those companies are not made up of developers. When they talk about migrating workloads to the cloud, it's not the developers that are making those decisions. It's the data center managers. And the data center managers don't talk development talk. They don't talk about APIs connecting to, building data centers based on APIs. They understand VMware, they understand Hyper-V, they understand those components. And that, I believe, is the shift that providers need to make. HP is trying to make that decision on how to do that with OpenStack. You guys are trying to make a decision on how to do that with VMware, how to get that next larger piece of the pie. So the cloud management piece of the cloud is really exciting, and what's going on with that is both from a technology perspective and then from a strategy perspective is extremely interesting.
That's pretty interesting. We're actually, when I was talking with Cumulogix today, we were kind of discussing like what market we were actually looking to target, and we're still trying to figure that out. We don't know if we should look more for a vertical market, but within a vertical market, if you're going to do that, you pretty much have to have a suite of tools, solution, I should say, for a vertical market. So it's somebody like an industry like healthcare. It's not enough just to have platform as a service. They need other tools as well, maybe some type of encrypted backup solution, or any various solutions that would benefit them, and they need that packaged up. Or should we go more for the developer market and just offer a typical PaaS solution so that developers can quickly just deploy their code in our infrastructure? So
an interesting kind of going on that kind of path, a really good question is, with the whole developer market, why, Amazon has that market, and the good question is why compete with Amazon? Unless you're specifically going at the specific vertical within developers, so unless you're targeting healthcare developers specifically, and you kind of limit the scope and build those tools that you just mentioned around a specific industry, that you can be extremely successful in that one niche and make a pretty good name for yourself. But the question is, how big do you want to get? And if you want to get really big, you're not going to get really big competing against Amazon, with just offering a generic developer solution. You really do need some value added on top of that. Working for Lockheed Martin, I helped build the Lockheed Martin Solus Cloud, and our whole thing has not been, we have no desire to compete against Amazon. We understand the federal market. We understand the challenges associated with security and accreditation around government data. So that makes our cloud really appealing to the federal customers. So that community cloud type solution is, where I think a lot of cloud providers who are, don't have the scale of Amazon need to compete in.
Gotcha. And here's my take on that. And I hear definitely what you're saying. Here's the problem that's presented to us. Okay. So we offer right now an infrastructure as a service solution using Zen Server as a hypervisor with CloudStack as the management panel. Amazon pretty much has infrastructure as a service as well locked up.
Right.
Now we do web hosting as well, right? So we use a control panel for our web hosting called hSphere, and it actually acts sort of as a platform as a service, but without the scalability, right? So if a user, it's pretty much like all the web hosting control panels out there. You say you need a Linux server with PHP, this version of PHP and this version of MySQL. Boom. You just can't. It doesn't adjust to workloads or anything like that because it's not a cloud solution, or a true cloud solution. So where we have a problem with is, okay, so do you go with the $100 or however much they charge for, some type of web hosting or whatever, or do we offer the $500 infrastructure as a service solution? And so we're finding ourselves bringing on clients, and this, our sales guys are out there trying to sell infrastructure as a service, but what they actually end up selling is platform as a service, because when the client gets to us, they get their instance and then they turn right around to us and kind of want us to manage it, and it's like,
what do I do with this VM? It's a virtual machine with Linux, so I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, exactly. So we're already basically selling it without actually selling it, right? So I guess my thing was we need something that's in the middle.
And I'm finding that's where the value is at, where there's actually the recovery.gov is a great example of a solution that's kind of in between. So recovery.gov is I might be wrong, but it's either a SharePoint or SharePoint-like application that actually runs on AWS, so Amazon Web Services, their infrastructure as a service. So the provider who sold the government that solution built the SharePoint infrastructure on Amazon and now resells that to the government and basically leverages Amazon as their virtual data center and sells the recovery.gov to the SQL and SharePoint instance to the government, and the government finds value in that. So it's not cheap like AWS is. They get all of the advantages of AWS, but none of the management headaches of having to manage AWS. So I thought that was an extremely creative way to, kind of partner with Amazon and not compete, but still be a cloud provider within yourself. So kind of a broken type service that really adds value.
Yeah, that's interesting. Something definitely to think about. Where do we go next? You got a pretty kick-ass workstation recently.
Yeah,
I've been wanting to upgrade for so long, and I think I'm actually. Now you say that's the workstation is a Dell, right?
Yeah, the workstation is a Dell,
and it's 8-core. What, 32?
So it's a i7 with what does this thing look like it has? I'm actually on it right now, and it's 4-core with hyper-threading, so it looks like eight virtual cores. It has 32 gig of RAM. I have a 256 gig SSD drive in it, and two terabyte spinning disk in it. So I've done some pretty impressive. It's a little bit more impressive than I anticipated, actually.
Really? Why is that?
Well, I actually built an entire. I've built an entire vDirector cloud in it. And you look at the CPU is less than 10% on average utilized. Memory still at 18, 19 gigabyte used. So I still have 13 gig of free RAM. I haven't been able to max this thing out at all.
Nice.
I thought I was a pretty hard-hitting virtualization guy. I can get a VDI, a virtual desktop infrastructure inside of it. And the thing just, literally just laughs at me. I'm like, wow, I need to figure out how to break it.
Nice. Yeah, I've been wanting to. I've just got my main desktop here is just a dual core with about I don't know if it's 4 or 8 gigs of RAM. I mean, that's just what I use for browsing the web and opening
your day-to-day workstation.
Yeah, but I also have a what was this? Was it a Lenovo? I think it was a Lenovo that I bought and I gutted because the box that it actually came in was kind of small. But it was a quad-core. What was it? 12 or 16 gigs of RAM. And I think it had like one, maybe 500, 750 gig drive in there. So I gutted it, threw it in a new case, and added some drives and threw ESXi on there. So I use it for my virtualization server, and I want to upgrade. I want to move to some type of 8-core. I was looking at the AMD 8-core processors. You're thinking about building a new computer here. I don't know that I don't know nowadays if it's actually going to be cheaper to just buy something that's already built, or I like being able to customize. That's the thing. So I like being able to go out and grab the case that I actually want and add as much RAM as I actually want, and add the drives that I want, because I want to go with some SSD drives this time, and like I said, maybe an 8-core processor from AMD. So kind of on the fence on what I should do.
Yeah, I had the same debate. I actually have a kick butt case right next to my that I used as a Windows home server for backing up my all the PCs here. The thing has 8 drive. It has 8 drive bays. I had an insane, like a 400, at least a 450 watt power supply. The case is insane, and I thought about. I had that debate. Do I just buy a motherboard, drive, and memory, and call it a day? And my wife reminded me that I have no patience for when things break. So when it's my primary machine, I like to call manufacturers. They send me a system board and have somebody replace it. So that peace of mind works out well for me. So actually, I kind of went the hybrid route. So I bought the base of what Dell would allow me to buy with the i7 in it. And then it was way cheaper to go out and buy the SSD drive. It was actually cheaper for me to buy the SSD drive from Dell as an accessory than it was for them to include it in the system. And then I went out and bought the 32 gig of RAM on the open market, and that saved me some money overall. But I had that debate. And if you're thinking about, and this is for the audience too, if you're thinking about building the rig you have at ESXi, especially because you chose to run ESXi bare metal on the device, I use my workstation as both my everyday machine and my lab machine. So I chose to run VMware Workstation in it. So all of my lab stuff is running in the background. I'm using it for my web surfing, blog posts, and so on and so forth. By far, my old quad-core machine with 6 gig of RAM would do me fine if I could have upgraded it to 24 or 32 gig of RAM. Processor means almost nothing, especially when you're doing a lab. They never ever peg your processor in any lab that I could not think of a lab that would peg my processor. It's always RAM. So if you had a choice between buying RAM or processor, buy as much RAM as you can. My philosophy is always buy as much RAM as you can afford, and then when you run out of money, borrow some money to buy some more RAM, and you'll be okay.
Gotcha. So I also was reading on your site, you have another blog called Growing Up Chicago?
Yeah, that's actually my little side passion there. GrowingUpShy.com is GrowingUpShy.com. It is kind of that's my more of my social way of giving back. A lot of stories from a lot of guys like me who grew up in the inner city of Chicago. I grew up in Inglewood. So when you read in the paper today about all the people getting shot in Chicago, those are the neighborhoods that I grew up in. And so one of the things that I've chosen to do is dedicate a website to guys like me who made it out of, not necessarily made it out of Chicago, but made it out of those environments and became something much more than what we read in the papers.
Nice. And you know what? I really liked and I really related to the phrase that you have on your blog post there. You say, I've really enjoyed learning how to blog with virtualizedgeek.com, but a geek is just part of who I am. And I thought that was a pretty powerful message because I think people kind of get the wrong perception, especially when it comes to blacks and or blacks who look at technology. They get this perception of, if you're into computers, if you call yourself a geek, then you're a lame. And I like the fact that the way you put that was, this is just a part of who I am. I make what is a geek and not the other way around, right? So this is a part as well as all these other aspects of my life that make me who I am, and that, you know, that you kind of have your influence on, you know, what goes on and things like that, and geek is just a part of it. So I really like what you were saying and where you're going with the growing up in Chicago.
Yeah, that's really, and I'm glad you mentioned that. You know, the part where I said, you know, Virtualized Geek was a great opportunity for me to learn how to blog. And some of the mistakes that I made early on in my blogging career in Virtualized Geek, I'm trying not to repeat that in Grown Up Shy, being going out, getting folks to do guest posts. And it's not just about, I think it's important to be a role model as a successful black geek in technology. I think it's important to be a role model. But also, you know, the Grown Up Chicago is a inclusive site. So, you know, I have stories from some white friends, some Hispanic friends coming. So it's, you know, it's really about the flavor of Chicago and not just. And again, you know, I'm much more than just a geek, and it's not just a face to me, but it's a face to, you know, sometimes we can be desensitized to what we read in the paper, and we can view cities like Chicago, Detroit, Baltimore, and we can look at those cities and forget that these are people that have lives very similar to our own, and they have a face and they have a voice. So hopefully that's what Grown Up Shy will become.
That's excellent. That's excellent. I think I talked to you about the Big Tech Digest. Did I?
I don't believe so.
Okay, so the Big Tech Digest is going to be a technical blog consisting of articles written entirely by black contributors. So it's going to be, you know, similar to what you're doing with Virtualized Geek, you know, covering all different aspects of technology everywhere, anything from, you know, software development to website design to web UI to open source Linux, server administration, security, you know, cloud computing, virtualization, and like I said, it's going to feature all black authors, which is it's really near and dear to my heart to launch something like this, and it's going to be launching pretty soon because, you know, you kind of touched on it a little bit. The visibility of the black tech needs to be out there more, and I always kind of say that in order for us to change the perception, we have to change our conversation. And what I mean by that is there's a perception out there of black technologists, right? Whether it's from other races or other cultures viewing us as not as knowledgeable or not as this or not as that, or, you know, either from inside our own culture. And to me, the only way to change that is to change how we talk about tech. You know, and give the real hardcore technologists out there a platform to speak, to write, to blog, to get their thoughts and everything out there for everybody to see, and and especially for our own sake. If we want the next generation of, you know, black youths or whatever, or black techs entering, if we want them to be serious about technology, if we want them to be able to relate to other technologists, we need to give them something a little bit more. We need to show them that, hey, here are people that are actually doing this, that are actually talking about tech, that are actually living tech, and actually have a passion for it. And that's the type of platform that I'm hoping to bring to the internet pretty soon. Like I said, I think hopefully it'll be up within a couple of weeks. So the reason why I brought that up is because not only kind of fell in line to what we're talking about, but if you ever feel a need that you want to contribute an article, or you ever want to write something and contribute it, let me know, and I definitely post something up, up on the site as well for you. And the good thing about it, real quick, the good thing about it is that the site is pretty much going to give a platform to the black technologists, but it's going to actually, like for instance, when you contribute an article, it'll have your picture up there. It'll have a small bio, any website or anything like that you want to speak about or talk about or put in your bio. So the links back to your site. So it's not it's about giving exposure pretty much to everybody. So I don't want this to be just a Blacks in Technology thing. I want it to spread the word about the black technologists, to everybody. So, they go to a post that you wrote, or and they say, hey, I wonder who wrote this. Okay, Keith Townsend. Oh, he's part of virtualizedgeek.com. Blah 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 blah. Great. Let me check out virtualizedgeek.com. I want to bring that whole exposure piece to it as well. So.
Yeah, but I actually have a similar thing in the working. I actually put a post up to the forum. Is that very similar motivation? Actually, Virtualized Geek. I've opened up. I'm going to create a new sub-page within Virtualized Geek called Young Gun. Virtualized Geek has incredibly raised my profile within the tech industry in general. I'm shocked at the level of interest people have had in the blog, and not just the blog, but other opportunities. So beginning October 1st, I expect to have a blog actually running, data center blog running on ZDNet, which is a CBSI publication. That was an opportunity which was an offshoot of somebody from CBSI visiting virtualizedgeek.com. I've gotten at least 3 job offers from Virtualized Geek. I've gotten a raise based off of counter offers that I've gotten from Virtualized Geek. So blogging has raised my own personal profile and increased my professional life a great deal more than what I've put into it. So I really want to encourage folks that have an interest in technology and your name out there. And it doesn't have to be about virtualization or cloud computing. It can be any topic similar to the approach that you're taking, because I really believe that, putting yourself out there and I advise some guys who are coming out of their VCP training, blog about your journey on your VCP training, and you'll be surprised about how many people pay attention and reach out to you just because you're able to display an aptitude for learning and writing and just the exposure that it gives you. So, I'm looking forward to seeing the new section, and I'll be more than happy to contribute to it.
Excellent. And real quick, it's funny that that you mentioned, blogging as helping to raise your profile. There was an actual a person on the LinkedIn, the Blacks in Technology LinkedIn group, and they were talking about finding a job and how to get their foot in the door and things like that. And I did mention blogging, or even responding to blogs that are already out there, posting with some your response or whatever, and just saying just getting your name out there would help. There were a couple of people that didn't agree because they kind of felt that I guess the HR person or whoever they don't look at that. But I was saying, hey, you'd be surprised at what people when people want. Say, for instance, they come across your resume and they say, oh, okay, this person has some of the qualifications, some of the skills that we're looking for. They will definitely go out there and Google you. And they will find out. I
got a call from Amazon a few weeks ago that the position was nowhere near what I did, but they were like, we like your post on GigaOM, and you sound like the exact type of candidate that we're looking for, and the position wasn't a match at all. But I was really blown away. I'm like, wow, they from a comment, to your point, to a comment on a popular blog site like GigaOM. And I linked it back to my Twitter, which links back to my LinkedIn, and it's a round robin thing.
Exactly.
They find you. I agree with you.
Yeah. So that was a nice little thread that was going on in our LinkedIn discussion. Man, it's been a good a good podcast. I want to end this off with a little lightning round of questions here.
Okay.
So I'm just going to rattle off some questions. You give me your answer. So, DC, Marvel, or other?
Oh, DC, by far.
All right. Okay. Android, iOS, or Windows?
You know what? Right now, iOS, but I'm really leaning towards getting the Lumina 920.
Wow, really?
Yes.
That's right. I actually played around with the Windows 8 operating system at South by Southwest, and it was pretty slick. I'm an Android guy, but I wouldn't be mad getting a Windows phone.
Kind of where I'm at.
I got it. Linux, Apple, or Windows?
Oh, I'm a Windows guy.
I'm more of my main desktop is Windows, and the only reason why it's Windows is because I have a 3-monitor setup, and getting 3 monitors to work on Linux the way I want them to work doesn't work pretty well. So, but everything else,
I just have no patience for learning Linux.
I got you. All right, so Chrome, Firefox, or IE?
Chrome has me addicted.
Nice. Tablet of choice. What's your tablet right now? Your tablet of choice.
My tablet of choice is right now the iPad, but I am aiming for Windows 8 Pro tablet. So I'll be,
nice.
If there was a line to get them, I'd be in line.
Gotcha. All right. Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek.
That's nice. Most people tend to veer towards Star Wars. I'm actually more of a Star Trek fan than I am Star Wars. Star Wars just kind of got too kiddie for me.
Yeah, Star Trek is. I love the new one. I love the reboot to it. I'm a big fan.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, J.J. Abrams. Yeah. Well, Keith, man, thank you for taking some time out of your night to sit here and talk tech. Definitely appreciate it.
I'm glad we finally hooked up.
Yeah, definitely. And you're in Chicago, right?
Actually, I'm in the D.C. area, headed back to Chicago in 2 weeks. I accepted a position at TWC, so I'll be moving the family back home to Chicago.
TWC is Time Warner Cable?
Price Waterhouse.
Oh, okay. Oh, gotcha. Well, congratulations. And welcome back to the Midwest. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
I've got some friends who stay up in Chicago. So next time I'm up there, I'll look you up, man.
Most definitely, we'll go out for a couple of beers.
Okay, great. Real quick before we go ahead and give out your URL for your sites, and also any other pertinent information, Twitter handles, whatever.
So you can follow me at Virtualized Geek on Twitter. The website is www.virtualizedgeek. That's virtualizedgeek.com. And Growing Up Shy is growingupshychi.com.
Excellent, excellent. Thanks once again, Keith, and I hope to talk to you soon, man.
All right, Greg. I appreciate you having me.
No problem. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Blacks in Technology.
Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology. Blacks in technology.